Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share the program so that your friends can know exactly where the conversation is taking place this morning. Also, please take a moment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook if you haven't already done so. And in both cases, make sure you click the notification button so that you can get the notifications as soon as we go live. That way you can participate in the live chat as the program is going on. Also, time to visit fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. As you can see, we've got some new cool t-shirt designs. We've got some new hoodie designs. We've got coffee mugs, stickers, you name it. And the best part about it is every dollar that you spend goes right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That is fpcgear.com. Folks, it is the place to go to do your holiday Christmas shopping. All right. We all know that every single time there is a shooting or a mass shooting or an incident of violence that involves firearms that makes it into the news, we all know that there's this pressure on politicians to do something. And that pressure it's a bipartisan pressure. Oftentimes we look at Republicans and Republicans will say, well, we need to wait, we need to get the facts. And that's good, and because we should wait and get the facts before we start before we start trying to institute new laws, in particular, because we know the folks we know that unfortunately many of the anti-gun legislators, the politicians, their first instinct is, well, we need to institute gun control. It really doesn't matter if it would have stopped what just happened, but I'm going to take advantage of this situation and I'm going to use it to push an agenda that is going to take away the rights of people. Well, not every Republican in every case, or not every person who considers themselves to be pro-gun, it necessarily stops to think about the liberties that are being infringed upon when they go to do something. In this case, we're talking about Representative John Conyers, and we're talking about something that he's introduced called the Response Act. Before I get into it, I will let him give you a brief description of one of the instances, and this particular piece of the Response Act particularly affects young people or people who are in school.
The Response Act seeks to increase the safety of our schools, of our students. I've heard this from countless parents. No doubt the presiding officer has too, that parents literally are in fear of sending their children to school not knowing whether they may be victimized by one of these senseless attacks, especially in the aftermath of Santa Fe and Parkland High School. Parents are rightfully concerned about sending their kids to school, and that they should not have to live with that. The Response Act includes provisions to help identify students whose behavior indicates a threat of violence, and then provide the student with the appropriate services they may need to not be a danger to themselves or others. By promoting best practices within our schools, as well as internet safety policies, we can help protect both students and school faculty and provide parents with a little peace of mind.
All right, so to be clear, I mean, schools is not just the only thing this thing does, but specifically they want to make sure, they want to be able to detect, online activities of minors. They want to be able to know exactly what it is that you are searching, or that our children are searching when they are at school. Now, how exactly do they plan to do that? I'm glad you asked that question. In essence, what they plan to do is nearly all federally funded schools in the U.S. would be required to install software to surveil students' online activities, potentially including their emails and searches, in order to flag violent or alarming content. Now, violent or alarming content. What exactly is violent or alarming content? If someone shows an interest in firearms, does that constitute violent or alarming? Is that violent or is that considered alarming content? If someone decides to stand up for their rights, or if someone falls into the, how shall we say, the hyperbolic nature of the internet, because we all know kids are definitely apt to do that, right? Is that now going to now be considered violent content? And now are they going to be forced to go through some sort of counseling because, well, someone who saw or read whatever it was that they were writing, someone saw what they put online and decided that that was dangerous behavior. Now, you and I have probably, I mean, I think there is a standard at which we all agree is dangerous behavior. Someone says, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to blow it up. Or I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do that. I'm going to, take a gun to school, something like that. Obviously, that is dangerous behavior, right? But what if someone says, I really don't like what's going on in school, I'm not going to stand for it anymore? Is that considered alarming? If someone says, if someone posts pictures of themselves at the gun range, right? If a student posts a picture of themselves at a gun range with their parents, is that then going to be considered dangerous or alarming or violent behavior? See, it depends on who's doing the judging. And I can tell you right now that there are people under red flag laws who have lost their rights for less because it was deemed or judged by somebody incorrectly, by the way, often, that was dangerous behavior. But I know what some of you are thinking right now. Well, these are kids, they're minors, yada, 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 and they need to be monitored. No. Trust me. You think they're just coming for you. I mean, for them, for your kids, right? But no. They've got something for you too.
And finally, because so often these shooters advertise on social media or cry out for attention to law enforcement or other people ahead of time, this legislation includes provisions to ensure law enforcement can receive timely information about potential threats made online. Online providers and platforms have the ability to share information with law enforcement today during emergencies and in the fight against child abuse. The Response Act would expand the scope of information they can share to include information about potential acts of mass violence or self-harm or hate crimes or acts of domestic terrorism.
All right, so in other words, what they're doing is they now want to go to the companies that provide you access to the internet and be able to get access to information that they otherwise would not be able to get access to. They want into your private life. They want into your private emails. They want into your private email searches. And what they want is they want these companies to be able to then search those emails and send to the government any time, any situation in which they feel you have done or said something that is potentially dangerous. And the thing is that we all know that many of the tech companies who provide these services, they're, how shall I say, they're not exactly on our side. I feel pretty comfortable that in my belief that the political bias of these particular organizations, the ones that they're trusting to hand over our information to the government, that I don't think that information is going to be handed over on a very equal basis. I have a feeling that the liberal thought police, the anti-gun, anti-liberty thought police at these tech companies are going to, just as they do with our posts, just as they do with our videos, just as they do with our advertisements, they are going to target those of us who believe in liberty, and we are going to disproportionately have our content, our information, our dangerous thoughts sent to the government, and have the government then, impose their will upon us. Folks, I cannot even begin to tell you how bad an idea this is. And, it's done under the guise of, we don't want to focus on guns. It's not just about guns. It's about rights. It's about liberty. If you want to do something in schools, how about working to make schools safe? How about allowing individuals to be on campus who are able to defend students from these individuals? How about not making them soft targets by making them gun-free zones? How about that? How about making designs such that it's not easy for individuals who have absolutely who have no connection to the school or whatever, or would seek to do harm on that school? How about designing schools in such a way that it's not easy to walk on and off those campuses undetected? right? How about doing actual things that will make our kids safe at school? Right? If you want to know what's going on out there in society, if you want to know, get once again, stop trying to be the thought police. Right? I get what you're saying, but the thing is that what you keep doing. First of all, let us understand this. If we're talking about the number of incidents where individuals are shot as in relation to mass shootings, it is a fraction of a percent of all situations that involve firearms. It is a small percentage, but yet you want to infringe on the civil liberties of all Americans. I get it. Rights are dangerous. They are. But there's a reason why they're called civil liberties. And that's because these rights are fundamental, because what happens is once government gets to the point where they're able to start infringing on those rights, and they always start off doing it in the guise of safety or public safety. But eventually it is ripe for abuse, because all of a sudden public safety becomes, well, I have to protect you from, instead of just from quote unquote dangerous thoughts that might be of self-harm, it then evolves into, well, just dangerous thoughts. And those dangerous thoughts oftentimes then just wind up being whatever the government doesn't want you to think or talk about. Then it leads to censorship. Then it leads to imprisonment. Then it leads to an authoritarian police state. And that is exactly the direction that a piece of legislation like this eventually takes us. So, folks, all due respect, I don't know how you feel about Representative. I don't know how you feel about Mr. Conyers, but I just got to tell you, yeah, this is a bad bill. The Response Act is a bill that violates the civil liberties of law-abiding citizens, and it is going to do almost, almost nothing to stop incidences of mass shootings or suicide, but it can actually do a lot, once again, to violate the rights of individuals. Anyway, folks, hey, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.